But let's talk a little bit now about LMP2 and the GT classes. Of course, we've done a lot about GTP, but of course, LMP2 definitely is going to be a very competitive class because in total we have 13 cars in LMP2, and they're bringing a lot of big names. Names such as Pato O'Ward, Colin Brown, Scott McLaughlin, Connor Zilish, Christian Rasmussen, Paul di Resta, Felix Rosenquist, Felipe Massa, and Kevin Simpson, among many other names. Now, when it comes to all the drivers racing in LMP2, starting with you, Kobe, out of all the drivers in LMP2, who has the best shot at winning in this really stacked field of LMP2 drivers with a lot of familiar names from outside sports car racing?
Oh, that's really tough, Joe, because looking at all these LMP2 driver lineups, I think the teams across the board have done a really great job, assembling these lineups. And I know we say this every year, but it seems like as each year goes by in the Rolex 24, these driver lineups just get stronger and stronger and stronger. And it seems like, this year's LMP2 lineup is the strongest we've ever seen before. I know a lot of people are probably going to be thinking that, the United Autosports entries are probably going to be one of the favorites to win, especially that number 2 entry, that started on the pole with Ben Keaton. Nico Pino was very impressive in LMP2. Ben Hanley was a part of that exciting finish last year with James Allen. That photo finished in the LMP2 race in 2023, and also IndyCar star Pato Awards in that entry. That's going to be a really good lineup, but I'm going to actually go with the number 74 Raleigh Motorsports LMP2 entry because I think that they're sneaky good, as you can see right there. They're going to be starting today's race in fourth place on the second row of the LMP2 class. And I think that driver lineup is super impressive when you look at Gar Robinson and Felipe Fraga, who've been working together for a handful of years. You got Josh Burden, and then Felipe Massa from the Formula One world. I think that car, is really fast, and it doesn't surprise me that Riley Motorsports would be able to transition from the LMP3 class to LMP2 and LMP3. They were really really good, and with LMP3 going away, decided to step up to LMP2, and it seemed like it's been a seamless transition for that team. So it would not surprise me if we see the number 74 winning in their LMP2 debut with Gar Robinson, Felipe Fraga, Josh Burden, and Felipe Massa.
I think this could go many different directions in LMP2, but I really, really like the team with Ben Keating and Pato Award with the Orica team. That's going to be such a strong lineup. But I also think Tower Motorsports, I think they're going to have a big redemption after last year. They had issues on the pace laps last year, and then they were just set back from the start pretty much all year, not all year, all race long. And it just kind of put them back, and they just kind of tried making up laps as the race went on. I believe they made up quite a few of their laps. They had Joseph Newgard and Scott McLaughlin in that car last year. This year they have Scott McLaughlin again. I think they're going to make a good run at it this year over at Tower Motorsports.
Yeah, definitely, guys. I think it's going to be a tough race. We've got some big names on the field. But if I have to pick one, I'm going to go with the first lineup that Kobe talked about, the number 2 United Autosports entry with Ben Keating, Nico Pino, Ben Hanley, and Pato Award. I think that they've got a really good shot, as you talked about. Lots of people are going to be rooting for them. And we know that Keating's got, I believe, 2 LMP2 titles, and then Pino started multiple LMP3 races, and Pato Award's got 2 Rolex 24 class wins. So I think that they've got a really good shot, but I'm just definitely going to be very excited to see how the race goes.
Now, once again, 13 cars, but in GTD Pro, that is a very stacked field as well, too. We see Paul Miller Racing, they're stepping up to all pro class over in GT Pro. Here is the GT Pro GTD lineup. One of the big things, Madison Stowe recently became a BMW factory driver. We see a pair of factory supported entries from Corvette Racing by Pratt Miller Motorsports. A different style of operations compared to the old Corvette factory team. And PFAB Motorsports is switching to McLaren after representing Porsche with the number 77. Rexy Porsche steps up to GTD Pro. Of course, a lot of folks excited to see the T-Rex car back on the track again. And we see Multimatic Motorsports with 2 Ford Mustang GT3s. A lot of new things to look forward to in this class for 2024. Alex, starting with you, GTD Pro usually puts on a really good show here at Daytona, one of the most competitive classes we've been talking about. And are you expecting essentially another barn burner? Because I don't see why it's not going to deliver.
Yeah, exactly, Joe. Why wouldn't they? It happens every year, so yeah, it's going to happen again. I think the finish is going to be incredible. Lee Diffie's going to be screaming. I'm going to be screaming. We're all going to be screaming. I can't wait. Yeah, it's going to be another barn burner finish, barn burner race for GTD Pro, of course.
It's hard to go against what happens all the time, right? If you're a betting person, it's like, why wouldn't you bet that this is the most competitive class? Why wouldn't you bet that we're going to have probably the most exciting finish in this one? So I mean, kind of alluding to what Alex said as well. It's going to be awesome, and that's definitely one of the most exciting parts of the Rolex 24 every year is seeing the GTP Pro class. I'm kind of like speechless trying to figure out what to say. It's just awesome quality of racing every single time these guys and girls get out on the track, especially here at the Rolex 24.
Yeah, this GTD profile, it seems like it continues to get better year after year, and especially from the GTLM era as well. Then we transition to GTD Pro and all of that. I think that the lineups, and just in this class as well, is just as strong as in LMP2 and GTP as well. Yeah, just looking through at the list of teams and drivers who are in the field, is going to be very exciting to see what Paul Miller Racing can do in the All Pro class. Madison Snow being able to become a BMW factory driver. When Madison Snow, he just coming to sports car racing, just trying to like be a gentleman driver and all of this. And look at him, he's just as fast as like his teammate Brian Sellers and all of that. And I think Sellers and Snow could have another great year. They had a dominant year last year in the GTD class, so really intrigued to see what they're going to be able to do in 2024. And then got the two Corvettes are back. Is not the same Corvette, the factory Corvette racing team that we've seen in the past. Corvette racing is mostly is going to be focused on customers now. That's why you got the Corvette racing by Pratt Miller Motorsport supporting this entry. Corvette brought two great cars, with Antonio Garcia, Alexander Sims, and Danny Hunkadej in the number 3, and the number 4. The number 4 is Tommy Milner, Nicky Katzberg, and Earl Bamber. A strong lineup there. Got Pfaff Motorsports going to the McLaren. I know it's going to feel weird not seeing them in the Porsche. They got a really great lineup there. Got two people from the IndyCar world in that number 9 McLaren, James Hinchcliffe, and Arrow McLaren IndyCar star Alexander Rossi. Vassar Sullivan, the Lexus should be really good as well with Jack Hawksworth, Ben Barnacote, and Kyle Kirkwood from the IndyCar series, and also Mike Conway as well. Got 2 entries from the Iron Lynx and Lamborghini. Some of their future prototype drivers, who don't as well know, Lamborghinis, their prototype is not going to debut in IMSA until the Mobile 112 Hours of Sebring in March. So, their GTP drivers needed something to do in the meantime. So the Iron Lynx and Lamborghini decided to stick them in one of their GTD Pro cars in the meantime. So they'll have something to do for the Rolex 24. And we also have the Heart of Racing, Aston Martin as well, Ross Gunn, Alex Riberas, and Mario Farnbacher. Always a threat at Daytona Risi Competizione. I feel like a lot of people aren't really talking about them in the Ferrari, but you never really know. The Risi group got another great lineup of Daniel Serra, Davide Rigon, Alessandro Perguidi, and James Collado. And one of the most highly anticipated additions to GTD Pro is the Ford Mustang GT3s from Multimatic Motorsport. It's been a few years since we've seen Ford racing in GT. They were racing with the Ford GT under the Chip Ganassi Racing banner, but now Multimatic Motorsports, they got the factory Ford program here in IMSA, and they have 2 good cars in the number 64 and number 65. Ford Mustangs and Harry Tinknell, Mike Rockefeller, and Christopher Mees in the 64. And over in the 65, you got Joey Hand, Dirk Miller, and Frederick Vervish in that car. And number 75, you got the Sun Energy 1, Mercedes, Kenny Habul, Jules Gounon, Mauro Ingo, and Lucas Stoltz. Another great lineup there. And last but not least, you got the Rexy Porsche, the AO Racing. They're on the pole for it in GTD Pro. Really, really fast. Rexy has truly become a fan favorite. And I'm sure a lot of people will be very excited to see Rexy, finally get into victory lane in IMSA competition.
Rexy, one of the most popular vehicles out there. And of course, we've been talking about GTD Pro. GTD, let's not leave them out. They got a pretty stacked field in total. 23 cars in GTD. Alex, is this the most unpredictable class to correctly predict the winner? Thankfully, we don't do pick a winner off this class. We do the overall race win. But which teams out of this unpredictable GTD class will you keep a close eye on?
I mean, I'm glad we don't do pick a winner, Joe, because I don't know what I'd do. I'd probably just do a little randomizer, put them all in, and then I'd just pick whatever the randomizer picked. But I don't know. This class is a lot of fun to watch. I think It's arguably one of the most enjoyable. I know most of the attention goes to GTP, rightfully so. It's the overall win, and that's where most of the big name drivers are. But I don't know if you can really say there is a favorite. I think one of my favorites I'm going to watch is, as Kobe mentioned, was the team with Hinchcliffe and Alexander Rossi on it. That's going to be a lot of fun to watch. But if I had to pick one, I think I would go with one of the Vassar Sullivan guys, one of those teams. I think those are just always a lot of fun. But I mean, it's too difficult to pick just one standout in that division, I believe.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Alex. Yeah, GTD is really stacked. I feel like we've been talking about all four classes being stacked. I think we can establish that that regardless of what class you're paying attention to, they have some really great driver lineups. It's really hard to pinpoint one specific team or driver in this GTD class who can potentially win. I think you could just we could have a GTD driver lineup, Wheel of Destiny, to try to pick a winner because it is just so unpredictable because this class is so big. And I always think it's very interesting, with the GTD Pro and the GTD cars, having the same balance of performance. So sometimes you'll see a GTD car faster than all the GTD Pro cars, and vice versa. Just like looking at the qualifying lineup, you have the Rexy Porsche on pole, and then you had the number 14 Vassar Sullivan GTD Pro Lexus right behind them, and then third fastest of all GT cars is the GTD entry from Vassar Sullivan, that Lexus. So, and then you have a whole bunch of GTD cars in between that before you get to the next GTD Pro car, a Corvette. Then behind the number 3 Corvette, you have a GTD, then 2 GTD Pros, then 1 GTD, then another GTD Pro, and then a bunch of GTDs before you get to the next span of GTD Pros. So, it's just very mixed. Got this large GT class. It often leads to a lot of exciting racing and all of that. I think overall that's going to be a good show. But I think one team you're going to obviously have to watch out for is that number 83 Lamborghini, the Iron Dames, Rahel Fry, Michelle Godin, Sarah Bovey, and Dorian Penn, who's a lot of great things have been happening with her lately, signing on as a a Mercedes junior driver, excuse me, and getting more involved in the single seaters. And we talked about that on a recent Grit Tonight show. And talked about all the great things that she has coming for her, and that great run she had in Petit Le Mans last year during the open stint, driving to the very front of all the GT cars. She was leading GTD, and she was in front of all the GTD Pro cars and all those factory drivers as well. That was a very impressive form. And I know we're going to talk a lot about some of the women that are racing in this year's Rolex 24 coming on later in our program. But I think, that the Iron Dames Lamborghini, you're definitely have to pay attention to them, especially young Dorian Penn, because she's going place right now in motorsports. And if you haven't heard of Dorian Penn by now, you need to start paying attention to her because she's going to be a serious player in motorsports for years to come.